Hi, I'm Don. So you want to get better at miniature painting. So today, we'll talk about brush control. So we'll talk about brush control and how to get better at miniature painting as we paint this Fafnir Rann Horus Heresy miniature and turn this really nice mini into this. Hi, I'm Don. Welcome to my studio. Other than these very awesome brands, this channel is fueled by my awesome patrons. Without my patrons, there will be no YouTube channel. So you have a good grasp of all the miniature painting techniques, layering, glazes, wet blending, and you're also good with the use of your tools, your wet palette, your airbrush, and even your brushes. But you want to level up your miniature painting further. So you want your work to be relatable to the master painter's works. It is important to note though that master painters and professional miniature painters have all the time in the world to paint miniatures. So they could practice, experiment, and paint miniatures basically every day. I'm not saying you won't be as good or nearly as good as the master painters or the full-time miniature painters. What I'm actually saying is basically experience and years of painting miniatures is overrated. Now, to start becoming a good painter, you have to know what you need to target or what you need to know to be a good painter. And one of them is brush control. Some people might tell you that brush control takes years or practice and years of experience of using the brush. It takes muscle memory or really good eye to hand coordination and stuff like that. That could be partly true, but it's overrated. So brush control can be attributed to your control with how you hold the brush and how you control your paint strokes with the brush or even with the airbrush. However, there are maybe a few, I'm not really sure, but there could be people who are really good at drawing or even freehand painting that struggles with simple blending techniques like painting skin or painting good armor with good transitions or even weathering, but they have really good brush control. If you're referring to brush control as for holding the brush. But for me, personally, in this video, brush control is basically learning how to not really control your brush, but to actually control the paints on the brush. Simply put, you'll paint better if you learn how to load your brush. Paint with less paints and apply less paints on the surface of the miniature so that you have sort of indirectly have a good brush control. But in reality, you're doing paint control. Don't worry about the actual brush control when you're painting details and stuff like that. As you paint more miniatures, you're going to get comfortable, you'll be confident with your painting skills, and you'll produce better miniatures. But to really paint super good miniatures, you really have to learn how to load your paints. So, use less paints and paint less, and you'll have better models. So hopefully you noticed in the painting here that I'm painting less paints on the surface of the miniature. So I have more control by controlling the amount of paint in my brush and controlling the amount of paint I apply on the miniature. So same with the highlights, even with the glazes. Sometimes people will tell you that you have to wick your brush. I don't actually wick my brush on a piece of towel because the towel, especially tissue paper, they kind of soak in all of the paint from my brush. So I like most people do, they like wipe it on their fingertips or even my apron. My apron is denim. It doesn't soak in all of the paints in the brush. It soaks just enough so that I have a bit more paint on my brush when I apply it on the miniature. You can see in the video now we're painting through metallic metal, which is metallic paints. I'm painting less and less surface with less and less amount of paint, especially as the paint gets brighter. And it ended up pretty good. But now we're painting blood effects, so I'm just slapping this on the sword or the axe so that it has a really nice volume on the axe so that it looks more gory. Again, if you like to support the channel, do consider being a patron. The longer videos and the tutorials are all there. So now let's get back to the mini. It's finished, it's done, and I hope you like it. Also, I hope you like the video as I talk about brush control. So basically for me, personally, I feel that brush control, other than the standard, like the usual control of the brush, you need to paint less, load less paint on your brushes. Of course, make sure not so that the paint doesn't go all the way to the ferrule. And of course, you just load it with enough paint and apply small amounts of paint to your miniature. In this manner, you feel that you have really good brush control, but in reality, you're doing paint control. And since you do that with layering, with glazing, even with the painting of the metallics here, as you can see, we produce a really good looking miniature. And thus, this will be your start since you know all the basics, the layering, the glazing, and all that. This is the next step to get better at miniature painting. One of the reasons why I really like mediums, of course you could use water, but mediums are a little bit thicker than water. And being thicker, it means it would load to your brush less than if you thin your paints with water. Since a loaded brush will create pooling and very ugly effects, a very limited amount of paint in your brush when glazing, doing fat glazes or thin glazes, will produce better results. So next time you do miniature painting, don't dip that brush on your paints like you're dipping tortillas on salsa, and you will prolong the life of your brush and you'll produce better painting. That's it, Pansit. Thanks for watching, guys.